We thank you so much for watching Law School Made Easy. At Law School Made Easy 256, we ask you to subscribe, to share, and always like our videos. So we want to straight discuss the elements of a crime. We want to go to criminal law 1, and we want to discuss elements of a crime. What are the elements of a crime? Number 1, when we say elements of a crime, in criminal law, there are only 2 elements of a crime, and this includes the actus reus and then the mens rea. So these 2 must exist for us to say that a crime has existed. For us to say that someone has committed a crime, 2 elements must exist. Okay? The actus reus and the mens rea. The actus reus means the guilty act. The act that you have done. That act must be prohibited by any of the statutes. That act must be prohibited by law. So you commit a crime, but doing an act. So the first thing we establish, if they say so and so has committed a crime, the first thing we establish is what was the act. We want to know, how did he kill? By stabbing. Stabbing is one of the acts. Stabbing. Use of a gun, you kill. You shoot. You strangle someone. Okay? You knock someone. That is what we mean by the act. Act meaning action. Now, what is the act? So for us to establish that there is a crime which has been committed, we must first know what was the actus reus. What did he use? Okay? Look at that case of Uganda versus Dr. Matthew Chirabo. In that case, Matthew Chirabo killed the girlfriend by cutting her in sensitive parts of the throat. So the act he used was cutting, okay? Unlawfully cutting somebody to death. So that is the act Dr. Matthew did. And that explains why he's serving the sentence. Okay? So, when you see in any of the questions they have asked you, and you see there is a crime, for example, there is a death in that question, ask yourself first, establish what was the act that was used to kill this somebody, and then we have this death before us. Sometimes you may not act, but you may omit. Omit coming from omission. For example, if you are a doctor and you are supposed to make a surgery on someone and you don't do your job, okay, you don't give the surgery and somebody passes on, you have not acted, but you have omitted that you were under duty to do your job, but you haven't done it. Omission. Sometimes it is act or omission. You act or you omit to perform a duty. By so doing, you have done what we call a crime. Okay? Then, let's cross to the other element of a crime, which is mens rea. Mens rea means a guilty mind. A guilty mind. That we establish whatever you did, were you intentional? One of the elements of mens rea is intention, recklessness, and many others. But we are saying the first thing we establish, did you have a guilty mind? Did you intend? Are there signs to show that you planned this killing? For example, if somebody stabs you in the thigh, okay? If somebody stabs you in the thigh, okay? There is no mens rea. There is no guilty mind of killing. He's stabbing in the thigh. But if somebody stabs you in the heart, then the mens rea is there. The intention to kill is there. Okay. Because if you did intend to kill, you'd stab on the leg. But it's stabbing in the heart. Look at that case of Dr. Matthew Chirabo, Uganda v. Dr. Matthew Chirabo. Again, in that case, Chirabo cut areas, the throat, the neck, areas that showed that he intended to kill. So he had a mens rea. He had a guilty mind. Whatever he did was intentional. Okay? That's what we mean by mens rea. So, when you combine the two, actus reus and mens rea, the rule is where actus reus and mens rea meet, you have committed a crime. Where actus reus and mens rea meet, you have committed a crime. I'll give an example. Look at that case of Ara versus Kaitamaki. In the case of Ara versus Kaitamaki, Kaitamaki was having sex with the wife. They agreed to have sex on that day. So while having sex, the woman got tired and told him, "Stop, I'm tired." Kaitamaki heard, but he never listened. He continued having sexual intercourse. So, woman goes to court. And the issue was, before court, was whether Kaitamaki had committed a crime. And the court agreed and said, yes, he committed a crime. Why? Because the actus reus and the mens rea met. And we are saying, where the two meet, you have committed a crime. For example, in that case, that he was told to stop. He heard, but he never listened. And he continued having sex. So the act is the act of having sex. And the act of telling him stop, and he hears but he doesn't listen, is the guilty mind that he now knew what he was doing. Because this woman had withdrawn her consent. So where actus reus and mens rea meet, you have actually committed the crime. Then, not to be static, we have exceptions to this rule, where we only need the act. That there are other situations where you don't need the mens rea. When there is an act, you have committed the crime. And that exception is what we call strict liability. In strict liability offenses, where for it only deals with the act, this is an exception to a general rule that says where actus reus and mens rea meet, you have committed a crime. And now the exception is that strict liability, we only consider the act. For example, if you're driving and you knock someone, we don't want to know whether you intended, whether you have the mens rea. The act is the one of knocking. You have knocked someone. So it becomes a strict liability offense. It only looks at the act. It doesn't consider the mind. For example, if we find you with a gun, the act of having a gun, okay? So that is what we call strict liability, which is an exception to the general rule of actus reus and mens rea, where the two meet, definitely you have commissioned a crime. So those are the two elements of a crime. And we want to thank you now for watching Law School Made Easy at Law School Made Easy 256. We ask you to subscribe, to share, and keep liking our videos. Until next time, thank you. Cheers.